Okay, so good day mga kapwa ko working law student. So this time, panibagong update na naman tayo sa uploads natin sa ating channel. We have YouTube channel and we have also our Facebook page, Working Law Student PH. So this time, ang topic naman natin is Basic Taxation Law. Usually ito ay nakukuha natin sa second year, second sem sa ating law school journey. So, itong basic taxation is isa sa mga kinatatakutan ng ibang mga students kasi sabi nila hindi daw sila marunong sa numbers. But mind you, yung taxation law natin sa law school does not conform with yung mga computations, but we will be learning the law on taxation. Iiwan natin yung computation ng taxes or iba pang mga may kinalaman sa tax doon sa mga certified public accountants. So this is part 1 of a series of basic taxation law uploads natin. Disclaimer lamang po, no? Sa pag-upload nito, ako po as the uploader, hindi po tayo natawag natin na eksperto. Ginawa natin to para sa ating pag-aaral sa subject nito at hindi rin tayo lawyer as of the moment. I am just expressing my idea and on how I understood the subject of basic taxation law. So let's go to taxation. Ano yung taxation? Taxation is the power by which the sovereign raises revenue to defray the necessary expenses of the government. It is a process or an act imposing a charge by governmental authority on property, individuals, or transaction to raise money for public purposes. That is according to the definition of Black's Law. So, kung titignan natin, meron tayong tatlong basic concepts of taxation. Number 1, taxation is a power. It is a power wielded by the state to collect money so that they have to spend for public purposes. Number 2, taxation is a process from time it is enforced, collected, and the whole process. And taxation is a means for survival of a state. Taxation is the inherent power of the state exercised through the legislature to impose burdens upon subjects and objects within its jurisdiction for the purpose of raising revenue and to carry out legitimate objects of the government. So, ano yung mga nature and characteristics ng taxation? So, when we say nature and characteristics of taxation, the nature of taxation is that number 1, it is an inherent power of the state. Okay, so number 2, it is a legislative power in itself. And number 3, it is subject to inherent and constitutional limitations. So first, we will go to the nature number 1, which is an inherent power of the state. So, pag sinabi natin inherent power of the state, taxation is the inherent power of the sovereign. This is one of the 3 inherent powers of the state. Okay, so ano yung tatlo na yon na inherent powers ng state? Number 1, the police power. Second is eminent domain. At yung pangatlo is what we call as taxation. It is inherent because the moment that the state comes into being, the power to tax along with the other inherent powers will automatically come out of it. Thus, the Constitution is not needed for the government to exercise the power of taxation. Tandaan natin yan ha. Constitution is not needed. Hindi na po kailangan yung Constitution para yung government natin mag-exercise ng power of taxation. Because again, it is an inherent power of the state. to tax the subject and the object. And pangalawa, laws are not needed so that the government may exact measures in order for it to survive. So, hindi na kailangan ang Constitution at hindi na kailangan ang batas kasi it is an inherent power of the state kagaya ng police power at yung power ng eminent domain. Okay, so let's take the case of Pepsi Cola versus Municipality of Tanawan, GR number L-31156, February 27, 1976. So, the power of taxation is an essential and inherent attribute of sovereignty belonging as a matter of right to every independent government without being expressly conferred by the people. Sa case na ito, yung facts nito is that yung Pepsi Cola nag-file ng complaint with preliminary injunction to declare yung Section 2 ng RA 2264 or the Local Autonomy Act as being unconstitutional as an undue delegation of taxing authority, as well as to declare ordinances number 23 and 27 of Tanawan Leyte null and void. So, yan yung mga facts ng case na to. Because yung ordinance number 23, it levies a tax, levies and collects from soft drink procedures and manufacturers a tax of 1/16 of centavo for every bottle of soft drink cork. So yung ordinance number 27 naman, it levies and collects on soft drinks produced and manufactured within municipality a tax of 1 centavo on each gallon. Both ordinances are denominated as municipal production tax. So sa issue ng case nito is Section 2 of RA 2264, an undue delegation of power, confiscatory and oppressive. So, ang sabi ng Supreme Court, hindi. No, it is not an undue delegation of power. Hindi rin ito confiscatory. And lalong-lalo nang hindi ito oppressive. Yung ruling ng Supreme Court, yung general rule, it is a power that is purely legislative and which the central legislative body cannot delegate either to the executive or judicial department of the government without infringing upon the theory of separation of powers. Kasi yung power of taxation is an essential and inherent attribute of sovereignty, belonging as a matter of right to every independent government without being expressly conferred by the people. And it is a power that is purely legislative and which the central legislative body cannot delegate either to the executive or judicial department of the government without infringing upon the theory of separation of powers. Yan yung general rule natin. Now, merong exception sa general rule nito. The exception, however, lies in the case of municipal corporations to which said theory does not apply. Yung legislative powers may be delegated to local governments in respect of matters of local concern, and this is sanctioned by immemorial practice. By necessary implication, yung legislative power to create political corporations for purposes of local self-government carries with it the power to confer on such local governmental agencies the power to tax. Under our 1987 Constitution, the local governments are granted the autonomous authority to create their own sources of revenue and to levy taxes that is provided for in Article 11, Section 5 of our Philippine Constitution. Without it cannot be said that Section 2 of RA number 2264 emanated from beyond the sphere of the legislative power to enact and vest in local governments the power of local taxation. When it is said that the taxing power may be delegated to municipalities and the like, it is meant that there may be delegated such measure of power to impress or to impose and collect taxes as the legislative or as the legislature may deem expedient. Thus, yung local government units natin or yung mga LGUs or municipalities or cities may be permitted to tax subjects which for reasons of public policy the state may not deem wise to tax for more general purposes. Now, yung power of taxation is plenary. The power to tax tends to be the most powerful among the inherent powers of the state because the power to tax is plenary, thus all-encompassing at it is unlimited. Now, meron tatlong objects of taxation. What are the three objects of taxation? Number one, persons. Tayo ay tinatax, kagaya ng mga community tax certificate natin or yung cedula. Pangalawa, property. We are taxed if we own a piece of land. Yun yung sa real property tax. And pangatlo, yung rights such as excise tax and income tax. What the government taxes is the privilege of earning income in case of income tax. So, kaya pag may sahod tayo, may sweldo, of course, we have to expect that we will be paying income tax. But purely because of the train law, yung lahat ng mga umi-earn ng less than 20,000 I think per month, they are already tax exempt sa income tax. Taxation practically covers everything. Lahat-lahat kino-cover ng tax. The moment that you are born, yung pagkapanganak sa'yo, hanggang sa ikaw ay mamatay, you are taxed. Sabi nga nila, the only constant in this world is number one, change, and yung pangalawa is yung tax. Hindi ka talaga makaka-escape when it comes to taxation. So, government can tax certain things and one cannot do anything about it. Theoretically, the government can impose any kind of tax because the power to tax is all-encompassing and plenary. Okay? Ito, taxation practically covers everything, and they said taxes are burdens. Okay, so when we say taxes are burdens, ibig sabihin is that this is the nature or the natural effect of the principle as it is the most power of all the inherent powers of the government. While it is not the most pervasive, it is the most powerful. Now, let us look at the case of Valentin Tio versus Videogram Regulatory Board, GR number L-75697. Decision came out in June 18, 1987. Now, let's go to the facts. Si Valentin Tio dito is an operator of OMI Enterprises who seeks to assail the constitutionality of Presidential Decree number 1987 creating the Videogram Regulatory Board. Now, si Tio attacks constitutionality of such because the tax imposed upon is harsh, confiscatory, oppressive, and unlawful restraint of trade and in violation of due process of Constitution. Yan yung kanyang contention. It has been provided by the law that in regulation of videotapes, those not locally made will be subject to a tax. But if it's locally made, it will be tax-free. Of course, subjected to sales tax. Okay? Then, Tio argues that the 30% tax imposed is harsh and oppressive. Yan yung sinasabi niya. No? Yung 30% na tax is harsh and oppressive. Now, the issue on hand is that, is the contention of Tio tenable? Yan yung main issue sa case na to. Sabi ng Supreme Court, no. Okay? So, yung ruling ng Supreme Court says that the power to impose taxes is one so unlimited in force and so searching in extent that the courts scarcely venture to declare that it is subject to any restrictions whatever, except such as rest in the discretion of the authority which exercises it. The power to impose taxes, sabi nga na is unlimited in force. So meaning, wala talagang limit yung power ng government or ng state to enforce taxes. Okay, so it's very clear. The power to tax is the power to destroy. Sabi nga na, di ba? Yung power to tax daw is the power to destroy. So, in the opinion of Justice Marshall in a US case, sabi niya, the power to tax is a destructive power which can pierce through personal and property rights of the people. If the state should wield it, it can destroy a particular business, all in the name of taxation. But there is also other contention that the power to tax is not the power to destroy. According to Justice Holmeg, the power to tax is not the power to destroy while the court sits. So if we try to reconcile these two opposing views of the taxes, yung isa is yung tax is the power to destroy, at yung isa naman is the tax is not the power to destroy. Yung power to destroy refers to a valid tax law, while the second one, yung power not to destroy, refers to invalid tax law. Now, what are the implications of power to tax is not the power to destroy? Number one, implications of power to tax and not power to destroy, yung implication is that the courts may strike down an invalid tax law. Tama naman, di ba? A lot of cases, a lot of tax ordinances or tax laws na in-strike down ng Supreme Court. Pangalawa, the power to tax is subject to limitations. Number one, either inherent limitations, and number two, it could be constitutional limitations. And number three, the power to tax involves the power to destroy, thus must be exercised with great caution. Now, let's go to the case of PhilHealth Care Providers versus CIR. GR number 167330, September 18, 2009. In 2000, the CIR demanded deficiency documentary stamp tax assessment. And in 2002, the CATA rendered a decision ordering petitioner to pay the imposed taxes. So, what happened here? Yung PAX dito is yung petitioner operates a group practice healthcare delivery system to take care of sick and disabled persons. So, sila yung parang healthcare provider, no? Those persons are enrolled in the healthcare plan and to provide admin, legal, and financial responsibilities for the organization. Kaya yung 2000, nag-demand si CIR ng deficiency sa DST as per assessment. And in 2002, yung Court of Tax Appeal rendered a decision ordering petitioner to pay the imposed taxes. In 2008, the Supreme Court denied the PFR from the Court of Appeals decision and ruled that DST is not a tax on the business transaction or transacted, but an excise on the privilege for the transaction of business. Thus, this motion for reconsideration. It was only in the motion for reconsideration that it reveals that it availed tax amnesty. Applying the principal object and purpose test, there is significant American case law supporting the argument that a corporation, such as an HMO, whether or not organized for profit, whose main object is to provide the members of a group with health services, is not engaged in the insurance business. So, the issue here is that, is the imposition of DST oppressive? Yan yung issue. Is the imposition of DST oppressive? Sabi ng Supreme Court, yes, it is oppressive. The Supreme Court granted the motion for reconsideration. The deficiency assessment is around 300 million pesos, while the assets of Philippine healthcare providers were only 259 million pesos. Napakalaki ng assessment na binigay compared to the assets of the Philippine healthcare providers. So, sabi ng Supreme Court, as a general rule, The power to tax is an incident of sovereignty and is unlimited in its range, acknowledging in its very nature no limits, so that security against its abuse is to be found only in the responsibility of the legislature, which imposes to tax the, on the constituency who is to pay it. So potent indeed that the power that it was once opined that the power to tax involves the power to destroy. So the petitioner claims that the assessed DST, which amounts to 376 million, it was way beyond the net worth of 259 million. And the respondent never disputed these assertions. Given the realities on the ground, imposing a DST on petitioner would be highly oppressive. Siyempre, 259 million lang yung assets ng Philippine healthcare providers, while yung DST umabot ng 375 million. It is not the purpose of the government to throttle private business. On the contrary, the government ought to encourage private enterprise. So, hindi dapat na sakalin natin yung mga private business. No? Kailangan atin silang i-encourage to thrive in our business environment. So, petitioners, just like any concern organized for a lawful economic activity, has a right to maintain a legitimate business, as ruled also in the case of Rojas et al. Versus CTA et al. Now, the power to taxation sometimes is called the power to destroy. Therefore, it should be exercised with caution to minimize injury to the proprietary rights of a taxpayer. It must be exercised fairly, equally, and uniformly, lest the tax collector kill the hen that lays the golden eggs. The legitimate enterprises enjoy the constitutional protection not to be taxed out of existence. Incurring losses because of a tax imposition may be an acceptable consequence, but killing the business of an entity is another matter and should not be allowed. It is a counterproductive and ultimately subversive of the nation's trust towards a better economy, which will ultimately benefit the majority of our people. So it's very clear in that case of Philippine Healthcare Providers versus CIR. Now, when we say taxes, it is also known as the lifeblood of the state. Taxes are the lifeblood of state, without which the government cannot endure or survive. Now, there are manifestations of what we call as the lifeblood doctrine. Number one, the no injunction principle. So, general rule, collection of national taxes cannot be enjoined, as can be read on the case of Republic versus Kagiwa. While the exception is that the Court of Tax Appeal Law, upon compliance with certain requirement, the CTA may enjoin the collection of taxes. So, general rule, collection of taxes cannot be enjoined. Exception, the Court of Tax Appeal Law, upon compliance with certain requirement, the CTA may enjoin the collection of taxes. So, let's go to the strict construction of tax exemption laws. So, ano yung mga strict construction of tax exemption laws? On the case of CIR versus Honorable Santos, GR number 119252, August 18, 1987, the facts of the case is that petitioners, the Guild of Philippine Jewelers, engaged in the manufacture of jewelries and allied undertakings. It also has other members. The regional director of the BIR issued order to BIR officers to conduct surveillance, monitoring, and inventory of all imported articles of Hans Broman Incorporated, which is a member of the Guild of Philippine Jewelers, and that it be placed the same under preventive embargo. Inventory was made. Okay, so inventory was then made and also requested for presentation of proof of necessary payment for excise tax and VAT, or value-added tax, on the said articles. BIR officers requested not to sell articles until proven that necessary taxes have been paid. Mr. Hans Bruman signed a receipt for articles seized and promised not to dispose the same without authority of the CIR, pending investigation. During the investigation for examination of books, of accounts, and other accounting records of Hans Bruman, it was not able to produce the documents requested by BIR. So, then, since hindi niya na-produce, similar letters of authority were issued to examine other members of the Guild of Philippine Jewelers. So, since si Bruman yung naging target nila, since walang na-produce si Bruman, ngayon, lahat na lang ng members ng Guild of Philippine Jewelers ay kailangan nilang i-examine as per letters of authority. That's why in 1988, private respondents filed with the RTC Pasig for a declaratory relief with writ of preliminary injunction, or TRO, against petitioners, praying that certain provisions of the NIRC and Tariff and Customs Code be declared unconstitutional and void, and that CIR be prevented to issue orders of similar nature. So here, the RTC ruled that certain provisions of the two laws involving percent tariff and customs duty and excise tax on jewelry, pearls, and precious stones as inoperative and without force and effect, as well enjoining enforcement of the same. So the public respondent ruled that the laws in question are confiscatory and oppressive, adopting verbatim the reasons that were presented by the private respondents in their position paper, and ruled that the government taxation and duties were the highest in the Asia-Pacific region, citing that in Hong Kong, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, jewelries and precious metals are duty-free. So, it went to rule also, yung RTC, this constrains to local manufacturer then has no recourse but to the back door for smuggled goods in order to compete, and rule that the statutory provisions are confiscatory and destructive of the propriety or proprietary right of the petitioners to engage in business in violation of Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution. Now, the petitioner contends that the public respondent has no authority to pass judgment upon the taxation policy, and there was no showing that the tax laws on jewelry are confiscatory and destructive of private respondents' proprietary rights. Yan yung decision, no? So, yung issue ngayon na dumating sa Supreme Court is that whether yung RTC or original trial court decision was proper. Sabi ng Supreme Court, no. It is not proper yung decision ng RTC. So, respondent judge encroach upon matters properly falling within the province of legislative function. Ito yung ruling, ha. Respondent judge encroach upon matters properly falling within the province of legislative functions. While the judge did not declare the laws unconstitutional, he declared them to be unoperative or inoperative and without force and effect, but he wrongly declared the provisions of the law to be violative of Section 1, Article 3. There is no doubt in the court's mind, despite protestations to the contrary, that respondent judge encroach upon matters properly falling within the province of legislative function. So para nagkakaroon ng judicial para bang nagkaroon sa na yung judiciary pumasok, no, nag-encroach siya doon sa functions ng legislative. So para nagkaroon ng judicial legislation. So, in citing the basis for his decision, unproven comparative data pertain to differences between tax rates of various Asian countries, and concluding that the jewelry industry in the Philippines suffers as a result, the respondent judge took it upon himself to supplant legislative policy regarding jewelry taxation. In advocating the abolition of local tax and duty on jewelry simply because other countries have adopted such policies, the respondent judge overlooked the fact that such matters are not for him to decide. There are some reasons why jewelry, a non-essential item, is taxed as it is in this country, and these reasons, deliberate upon by our legislature, are beyond the reach of judicial questioning. So, what we see here is a debate on the wisdom of the laws in question. This is a matter of which the regional trial court is not competent to rule as closely as observed. No? Debatable questions are for the legislature to decide. The courts do not sit on or to resolve the merits of conflicting issues. So it is to the legislature that they must resort to relief. So yan yung sabi ng Supreme Court sa case na to. So pangalawa, next one is legislative. So pag sinabi nating legislative, so 'di ba, yung una kanina, ano yung first kanina? Magkaroon siya ng the first one na aside from legislative, yung we will go now to the legislative in nature. So yun yung sa power ng taxation natin. If you will look at it, sabi nga 'di ba sa decision ni yung sa case ng Kagiwa, yung manifestation ng lifeblood doctrine, number one is that no injunction principle. Pangalawa, under the manifestation of lifeblood doctrine is that it is legislative. So, when we say legislative, the power of taxation is a legislative function. It is legislative in character. So, how are tax laws passed? Paano ba pinapasa? Paano ba nagiging batas yung mga tax laws na ito? In Article 6, Section 24, all appropriation, revenue, or tariff bills, bills authorizing increase of the public debt, bills of local application, and private bills shall originate exclusively in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendment. Ito yung nakasaad sa ating Constitution. Now, the power of taxation is a power purely legislative in which yung central legislative body cannot delegate either to the executive or judicial department. As a general rule, power of taxation cannot be delegated, but the exception is to the power of LGUs or the local government units. Now, ano yung scope of legislative power of Congress as to taxation? So when we say scope of legislative power of Congress as to taxation, we have number one, the object of taxation. Number two, the nature of taxation. Number three, the extent or the rate of the particular subject or object. Number four, the coverage of taxation. And number five, the place or situs of taxation. Now, let's go first to the principle of non-delegation. General rule, it says that the power of taxation cannot be delegated. But there is exception. Okay? Ano yung exception na yun? Delegation to the LGU. So, itong exception ng power of taxation that cannot be delegated has been provided in the case of Abacada versus Ermita. So, kaya lumabas itong exception. There are 5 exceptions to the the general rule that the power of taxation cannot be delegated as provided in Abacada versus Ermita. Number 1, delegation to the LGU. Number 2, delegation to the President. Number 3, delegation to the administrative agencies. Number 4, delegation to the people at large. And number 5, emergency powers of the President. So yan yung lima. Lima no na exception sa general rule na yung taxation cannot be delegated. Now, let's go towards to the local government unit. Itong LGUs, provinces, cities, and municipalities including the barangay as the pinakamababang uri ng ating local government, yung barangay. No? So, in the case of LGUs, the basis is Article 10, Section 5, that each local government unit shall have the power to create its own sources of revenue and to levy taxes, fees, and charges subject to such guidelines and limitations as Congress may provide consistent with the basic policy of local autonomy, that such taxes, fees, and charges shall accrue exclusively to the local government unit. So here, we have a case of Ferrer Jr. versus City Mayor Herbert Bautista of Quezon City, GR number 210551, June 30, 2015. This petition was filed directly to the Supreme Court. The petition seeks to declare as unconstitutional the two ordinances. Ano ba yung pinagsasabi dito na two ordinances? The facts of this case that in October in 2001, Quezon City Council enacted socialized housing tax of Quezon City, and this ordinance imposes a special assessment equivalent to 0.5% on the assessed value of the land in excess of 100,000 to be collected by the city treasurer, which is to accrue to socialized housing program of the city government. Now, in December 2013, it also enacted ordinance for collection of garbage fee on residential properties. In this case, Jose J. Ferrer Jr. alleges that he is a registered co-owner of a residential property in Quezon City. This petition was filed directly to the Supreme Court. The petition seeks to declare as unconstitutional and illegal the two ordinances. So ito yung sasabi kong socialized housing tax and the garbage fee. Now, the issue is that are both ordinances unconstitutional? Yun yung tinatanong nila. Ito bang dalawang ordinance na to, yung socialized housing tax at yung garbage fee, are unconstitutional? Now, the Supreme Court goes to that the power of local government to tax. LGUs must be reminded that they merely form part of the whole. Kasama lang siya sa kabuuan, yung LGUs. That policy of ensuring autonomy of local governments was never intended by the drafters of the 1987 Constitution to create an imperium in imperio and install an intra-sovereign political subdivision independent of a single sovereign state. While municipal corporations are bodies politic and corporate, created not only as local units of local government, but as governmental agencies of the state. Now, the legislature, by establishing a municipal corporation, does not divest the state of any of its sovereignty. Andiyan pa yung sovereignty ng state natin. Absolute. It's absolved itself from the right and duty to administer the public affairs of the entire state, or divest itself of any power over the inhabitants of the state which it possesses before the charter was granted. Now, LGUs are what we call as are able to legislate only by virtue of a valid delegation of legislative power from the national legislature. They are mere agents vested with what is called the power of subordinate legislation. The Congress enacted the Local Government Code of 1991 as the implementing law for the delegation to the various LGUs of the state's great powers, namely the police power, the power of eminent domain, and also the power of taxation. Ito yung tatlong inherent power ng state that was provided to the LGUs by virtue of Republic Act 7160. Congress enacted the Local Government Code because of this. The Local Government Code was fashioned to delineate the specific parameters and limitations to be complied with by each local government units in the exercise of these delegated powers with the view of making each LGU a fully functioning subdivision of the state, subject to the constitutional and statutory limitations. Now, specifically with regard to the power of taxation, it is indubitably the most effective instrument to raise needed revenues in financing and supporting myriad activities of the LGUs for the delivery of basic services essential to the promotion of the general welfare and the enhancement of peace, progress, and prosperity of the people. So, the decision of the Supreme Court says that indeed LGUs have no inherent power to tax except to the extent that such power might be delegated to them either by the basic law or by the statute. Under the now prevailing constitution, where there is neither a grant nor a prohibition by statute, the tax power must be deemed to exist, although Congress may provide statutory limitations and guidelines. The basic rationale for the current rule is to safeguard the viability and self-sufficiency of local government units by directly granting them general and broad tax powers. Okay, so kitang-kita naman natin, yan yung sabi ng Supreme Court. As to the socialized housing tax, ito yung decision ng Supreme Court sa unang issue. As to the socialized housing tax, the Supreme Court said it is valid. The respondents emphasized that the socialized housing tax is pursuant to the social justice principle under the Constitution and under RA 7279, asserting that it is not oppressive as well as it did not violate the Equal Protection Clause. Ferrer Jr., on the other hand, claims that the socialized housing tax is tantamount to a penalty imposed on real property owner for failure of the Quezon City Mayor and Council to perform their duty to secure and protect real property owners from informal settlers, and now burdening them with expenses to provide funds for housing. The socialized housing tax is not a charity since it is forced and not voluntary. So, clearly, the socialized housing tax charged by the Quezon City government is a tax which is within the power to impose. Within its power to impose. Aside from the specific authority vested in Section 43 of RA 7279 or the UDHA, Urban Development and Housing Act, cities are allowed to exercise such other powers and discharge such other functions and responsibilities as are necessary, appropriate, or incidental to efficient and effective provision of the basic services and facilities, which include, among others, programs and projects for low-cost housing and other mass dwellings. The collections made accrue to its socialized housing programs and projects. So therefore, the tax is not a pure exercise of taxing power or merely to raise revenue. It is levied with a regulatory purpose. The levy is primarily in its exercise of the police power for the general welfare of the entire city. So therefore, it is greatly imbued with public interest. Removing slum areas in Quezon City is not only beneficial to the underprivileged and homeless constituents, but advantageous to the real property owners as well. So the situation will improve the value of their property investments, fully enjoying the same in view of an orderly, secure, and safe community, and will enhance the quality of life of the poor, making them law-abiding constituents and better consumers of business products. So yan yung ruling ng Supreme Court as to the socialized housing tax. So ito yung mga sinasabi niya kanina. cities are allowed to exercise such other powers and discharge such other functions and responsibilities as are necessary. The tax is not a pure exercise of taxing power or merely to raise revenue. It is levied with a regulatory purpose. The levy is primarily in the exercise of the police power for the general welfare of the entire city, and it is greatly imbued with public interest. Removing slum areas in Quezon City is not only beneficial to the underprivileged and homeless constituents but advantageous to the real property owners as well. Now, as to the garbage fee, yung pangalawang issue na ni-raise kanina, okay? LGUs are statutorily sanctioned to impose and collect such reasonable fees and charges for services rendered. When we say charges, it refers to pecuniary liability as rents or fees against persons or property, while fee means a charge fixed by law or ordinance for the regulation or inspection of a business or activity. The fee imposed for garbage collections under Ordinance Number 2235 is a charge fixed for the regulation of an activity. Kasi yung sa garbage na nag-i-impose sila ng garbage fee. Certainly, as opposed to petitioner's opinion, the garbage fee is not a tax. Thus, it does not violate the rule on double taxation. But here, yung argument ni Ferrer is that there is already garbage fee under Section 47 and that the purpose is inconsistent with the mandate of RA 9003 or the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act. In this case, the alleged basis of Ordinance Number S-2235 in imposing the garbage fee is the volume of waste currently generated by each person in the city. So yan yung sinasabi na, kasi yung method dito is yung volume of waste na generate daw ng each person sa Quezon City. Kung tingnan natin, yung computation dito ng Quezon City is that at 0.66 kg per day daw yung na-generate na volume ng basura. And the increasing trend of waste generation for the past 3 years. And hindi na sinabi kung ano pa yung basis nila na 0.66 kg per day daw na-generate. So, the figure presented does not reflect the specific types of waste generated. Kung ano ba yung klaseng waste na yun? Is it residential? Sa market ba? Is it commercial waste? Industrial waste? Construction or demolition waste? Street waste ba yan? Agricultural waste? Agro-industrial? Institutional? Etc. Hindi sinabi. It is vague. It is reasonable, therefore, for the court to presume that such amount pertains to the totality of waste without any distinction generated by Quezon City constituents. So, to reiterate this thing, however, the authority of a municipality or city to impose fees extends only to those related to the collection and transport of non-recyclable and special waste. Yan yung nasa RA 9003. So, in the subject ordinance, the rates of the imposable fee depend on land or floor area and whether the pay is an occupant of a lot, condominium, social housing project, or apartment. Now, for the purpose, sabi ng Supreme Court dito, for the purpose daw of garbage collection, there is in fact no substantial distinction between an occupant of a lot or one hand and an occupant of a unit in a condominium, socialized housing project, or apartment on the other hand. So, yan yung sabi niya. Indeed, the classification under Ordinance Number 2235 are not germane to its declared purpose of promoting shared responsibility with the residents to attack their common mindless attitude in over-consuming the present resources and in generating waste. Kasi nga, di ba, yung rates being charged by the ordinance are unjust and inequitable. Akalain mo, ang residente sa 200 square meter na unit sa isang condominium or sa isang socialized housing project ay magbabayad ng twice the amount than a resident in a lot similar in size, unlike unit occupants. All occupants daw of a lot with an area of 200 square meter and less have to pay a fixed rate of 100 pesos, and the same amount of garbage fee is imposed regardless of whether the resident is from the condominium or from a socialized housing project. So kaya wala talagang distinction, no? Yung sa statutory construction ng batas, it is vague, no? So kaya yun yung ruling ng Supreme Court na yung socialized housing tax ordinance valid, while yung garbage fee is unconstitutional and also illegal. So yan yung ruling sa case na ito. Now, the constant rule is that local government units does not have or do not have the inherent power to tax. Diba? Kasi once, if we will look at it, yung power to tax ng local government unit is merely delegated power. If walang constitution, there will be no local government unit, which are considered as municipal corporations. Hindi kagaya ng state na kahit na walang constitution, it can still o it has still the power to tax. While ang LGU, pag walang constitution, walang LGU. Kasi nga yung RA 7160, yung para siya yung implementing rules and regulation ng sa constitution when it matters to the local government units. So yung LGUs are corporations with special purpose and been given the power to tax by virtue of the constitution. Now, another one is that the power to tax of the LGU is a direct grant. Once it is stated in the constitution, there is no need for an enabling law for such to happen. Automatically, the local government unit then has the power to tax because of the constitutional provision. The Congress may then set forth limits of the LGU's power to tax and its presence in the Local Government Code or RA 7160. So, kaya walang inherent power to tax ang mga local government unit. The purpose ng Local Government Code was just to limit, but the power of the local government unit to tax is limited and not plenary. Thus, the national government has the plenary power to tax, while the local government unit, the power to tax is limited. Now, let's go to the second one, delegation to the president. So, the basis for this, o yung legal basis ng delegation to the president, is that Article 6, Section 28, paragraph number 2 of the Constitution provides that the Congress may, by law, authorize the President to fix within specified limits and subject to such limitations and restrictions as it may impose tariff rates, import and export quotas, tonnage and wharfage dues, and other duties or imposed within the framework of the National Development Program of the government. Delegated and not inherent. Remember, the power of the President is delegated and not inherent. This is merely delegated by law, and President does not have inherent power to tax. Power to tax is inherently legislative in nature, while the President is executive. As to the scope of the limitation of delegated power of the President, number 1, it is only on tariff rates. Number 2, import and export quotas. Number 3, tonnage and wharfage dues. And number 4, other duties or imposed within the framework of the National Development Program of the governments. So yan lang yung 4 na limitations, no, o scope ng limitations of delegated power of the presidents. Now, ano yung requirements para magkaroon tayo ng valid exercise of president's power to tax? So number 1, unang-una, kailangan may batas, no? There must be a law promulgated by the Congress authorizing the president to impose such yung exercise of president's power to tax. And pangalawa, exercise must be within the limits. Take note of the word within the limits set forth in the law. Now, in the case of Southern Cross versus cement manufacturers, number one, it declares there that it is the Congress which authorizes the President to impose tariff rates, import and export quotas, tonnage and wharfage dues, and other duties or imposed within the framework of the National Development Program of the government. Thus, this is a pure delegation to the President. And pangalawa, it is not enough for the Congress to allow the President to exercise such power. Delegation must be embodied in law. Dapat nakalagay talaga sa batas, no? Na dinelegate nila yung power to exercise taxes on the President. And pangatlo, the authorization of the President may only be exercised within the specified limits in the law and is further subject to limitations and restrictions which Congress may impose. So remember, yung President does not have a vested right over such power, and that can be taken away anytime. Now, what are the tests for valid delegation? Number one, the completeness test. Ito, makikita natin tong test for valid delegation, again, in the case of Abacada versus Ermita. So, number one test for valid delegation is the completeness test. Is complete in itself, setting forth therein the policy to be executed, carried out or implemented by the delegate. And number two, the sufficient standard test. It fixes a standard, the limits of which are sufficiently determinate and determinable, to which the delegate must conform in the performance of his function. Now, take note that a sufficient standard is one which defines legislative policy, marks its limits, maps out its boundaries, and specifies the public agency to apply it. It indicates the circumstances under which the legislative command is to be effected. Both tests are intended to prevent a total transference of legislative authority to the delegate, who is not allowed to step into the shoes of the legislature and exercise a power essentially legislative. So, ito na, yung Abacada versus Ermita na case, GR number 168056, September 1, 2005. The facts of the case is that RA 9337, amending the National Internal Revenue Code, was passed and was assailed for being unconstitutional. Yan yung contention nila. Okay, so, standby powers of the President. Under Section 108, it was provided that the VAT, or the value-added tax, is equivalent to 10% of gross receipts derived from sale or exchange of services, provided that the President, upon recommendation of the Secretary of Finance, remember the word, upon recommendation of the Secretary of Finance, shall effective January 1, 2006, raise the rate of VAT to 12% after the following conditions are met. So, dapat meron mga conditions na meet, no? Bago i-impose na magiging 12% yung value-added tax. Number one, VAT collection as a percentage of gross domestic product of previous year exceeds 2 4/5%, or national government deficit as a percentage of GDP of previous year exceeds 1 1/2%. 1 1/2%. Now, the petitioners here argue that the grant of the standby authority to the President to increase the VAT rate is a virtual abdication by Congress of its exclusive power to tax, because such delegation is not within the purview of Section 28, number 2, Article 6 of the Constitution. Now, the issue here is that, is there delegation of power? Yan yung tinatanong. Didelegate ba talaga ng Congress doon sa President yung power to tax? Sabi ng Supreme Court, no. It is purely ministerial. The ruling here is that the case before the court is not a delegation of legislative power. It is simply a delegation of ascertainment of facts upon which enforcement and administration of the increased rate under the law is contingent. Highlighting the absence of discretion is the fact that the word shall is used in the common proviso. So in the word that is shall. It is the ministerial duty of the President to immediately impose the 12% rate upon the existence of any of the conditions specified by Congress. Kasi may dalawang condition, di ba? If hindi na met yung condition na yon, walang magiging 12% rate sa ating value-added tax. Magiging still remain at 10%. Pero pag may na-met siya doon na isa out of two, then the word shall be. So, automatically, magkakaroon ng additional 2%. So, magiging 12% na yung value-added tax. The legislative, sabi nga dito, no? The legislature has made the operation of the 12% rate effective January 1, 2006 contingent upon a specified fact or condition. So it leaves the entire operation or non-operation of the 12% rate upon factual matters outside of the control of the executive. So no discretion would be exercised by the President. So itong ginawa ng batas na ito, sabi nga nila, this is a duty which cannot be evaded by the President. Hindi to kayang ilagan ng President. No? He cannot say no to this. Inasmuch as the law specifically uses the word shall, the exercise of discretion by the President does not come into play. Walang presidential discretion kasi yung word is shall, hindi may. It is a clear directive to impose the 12% VAT rate when the specified conditions are present. The time of taking into effect of the 12% VAT rate is based on the happening of a certain specified contingency or upon the ascertainment of certain facts or conditions by a person or body other than the legislature itself. So, clear. Na-clear yun. Pangatlo, administrative agencies. This is also referred to subordinate legislation. In delegation to administrative bodies, the rules and regulations must conform to the law. No? In the case of CIR versus Fortune Tobacco in 2008, this was discussed that the issuance of Revenue Regulation 17-99 implementing the RA 8420 shift from ad valorem tax to specific tax. So yung nangyari ito, yung ad valorem tax dati siya ginagamit which according to value. Pag sinabing ad valorem according to value, which is a tax which is based upon the value of the transaction or of property. Put simply, an ad valorem tax is a tax based on the assessed value of an item. Now, from ad valorem, ginawa itong specific tax. So, yung specific tax naman, these are taxes which have a fixed amount of tax added on market price of a good or services. So, let's take in it can neither expand nor constrict, that is written in the red letter of the law. In case of conflict between the law and the revenue regulation, the law prevails. So yan yung sa sinasabi natin na subordinate legislation or administrative agencies. So Fortune Tobacco, GR number 1672774-75. In this, Fortune Tobacco was granted a tax refund or tax credit for tax wrongly collected from its tobacco products. However, in this case, the tax refund is being reclaimed by the CIR. So, Fortune Tobacco manufacturer certain cigarette brands with tax rates of 1 peso for Champion, Salem, and Camel, or 5 peso for Winston. Mga naninigarilyo dyan, alam nyo to. Ano mga brand na ito. Prescribed by RA 4280. Now, prior to January 1, 1977, these brands were subject to ad valorem tax based on the net rail price. But on January 1, 1987, RA 8420 took effect from ad valorem tax system to the specific tax system, subject these brands to a specific tax which provides under Section 145. So for all cigars, 1 peso each. For cigarettes packed by hands, yung kamay-kamay ang ginamit, hindi siya machine, 40 pesos 40 centavo per pack. Now, cigarettes packed by machines, yung mechanized, excluding excess tax and VAT, if net retail price is more than 10 pesos, it is 12 per pack. If net retail price is above 650 to 10 pesos, it was 8 pesos per pack. If net retail price is 5 pesos to 650, it will be added 5 pesos per pack. And if net retail price is below 5 pesos, it will be 1 peso per pack. Now, variants of existing brands or cigarettes which are introduced in the domestic market after the effectivity of RA 8240 shall be taxed under the highest classification of any variant of that brand. So, yung pag may bagong player na pumasok, itatax siya doon sa pinakamataas na classification kahit sa anong variant ng brand. The excise tax from the brand of cigarettes within the next 3 years from effectivity of RA 8240 shall not be lower than the tax due on each brand on October 1, 1996. So, yun yung provisions ng batas na ito, no? So, pero mga dadagdag. So, the rate of excise tax on cigars and cigarettes packed by machine shall be increased by 12% on January 1, 2000. To implement the provisions for a 12% increase of excise tax by January 1, 2000, the Secretary of Finance, upon recommendation of the CIR, issued RR 17-99, which provides for the increase on the applicable tax rates on cigar and cigarettes. So, yung RR 17-99 Section 1 last paragraph provides that the new specific tax rate for any existing brand of cigars, cigarettes packed by machines, distilled spirits, wines, and fermented liquor shall not be lower than the excise tax that is actually paid prior to January 1, 2000. So, the issue involved here in this case that was there a proper exercise of delegate rule-making power? Meron ba? The Supreme Court said no. Sabi ng Supreme Court, wala. Nada. So, as to the examination of the revenue regulation na kiniklaim nila dito, RR 17-99 further added that the new specific tax rate for any existing brand of cigars, etc., shall not be lower than the excise tax that is actually being paid prior to January 1, 2000. Section 145 provides that during the transition period, that is 3 years after the effectivity of tax code, the excise tax shall not be lower than the tax due on each brand on October 1, 1996. Now, this qualification, however, is conspicuously absent as regards the 12% increase which is to be applied on cigars and cigarettes packed by machine, among others effective on 1 January 2000. Clearly and unmistakably, Section 145 mandates a new rate of excise tax for cigarettes packed by machine due to the 12% increase of effective 1 January 2000 without regard to whether the revenue collection starting from this period may turn out to be lower than that collected prior to this date. So, by adding the qualification that the law due after the 12% increase becomes effective shall not be lower than the tax actually paid prior to 1 January 2000, Revenue Regulation Number 17-99 effectively imposes a tax which is the higher amount between the ad valorem tax being paid at the end of the 3-year transition period and the specific tax under paragraph C, subparagraph 1-4, 1 to 4, as increased by 12%, a situation not supported by the plain wording of Section 145 of the Tax Code. Now, as to the limits of rulemaking power of admin agencies, as we have previously declared, the Supreme Court said that the rulemaking power must be confined to details for regulating the mode of proceedings in order to carry into effect the law as it has been enacted, and it cannot be extended to amend or expand the statutory requirements or to embrace matters not covered by the statute. Administrative regulations must always be in harmony with the provisions of law because any resulting discrepancy between the two will always be resolved in favor of the basic law. So again, it bears repeating that revenue memorandum circulars are considered administrative rulings in the sense of more specific and less general interpretations of tax laws which are issued from time to time by the Commissioner of Internal Revenue. And it is widely accepted that the interpretation placed upon a statute by the executive officers whose duty is to enforce it is entitled to great respect by the courts. Nevertheless, such interpretation is not conclusive and will not or will be ignored if judicially found to be erroneous. Thus, the courts will not countenance administrative issuances that override instead of remaining consistent and in harmony with the law they seek to apply and implement. So the foregoing leads us to conclude that Revenue Regulation number 1799 is indeed indefensibly flawed. Yan yung sabi ng Supreme Court. The Commissioner cannot seek refuge in his claim that the purpose behind the passage of the tax code is to generate additional revenues for the government. Because yung revenue generation has undoubtedly been a major consideration in the passage of the tax code. However, as borne by the legislative record, the shift from the ad valorem system to the specific tax system is likewise meant to promote fair competition among the players in the industries concerned, to ensure an equitable distribution of the tax burden, and to simplify tax administration by classifying cigarettes, among others, into high, medium, or low-priced goods based on their net retail price and accordingly graduating tax rates. So, yung role dito is that administrative regulations must be in harmony with the provisions of the law. The revenue regulation must not expand, modify, alter, or amend basic law which it seeks to implement. So, let's go to the letter D. Delegation to the people at large. Ito naman, hindi ito masyadong nangyayari, no? This is through initiative and referendum. But however, it is actually impossible for people to exercise tax powers because of the possible difficulty that surrounds such things. So, again, yun lang yung first part ng vlog na ito. Okay, so hanggang delegation of the people at large. Yung emergency power to tax naman ng president is, yun, binibigay yun ng Congress din, no? As a means of law. So again, thank you for watching mga kapwa ko working law students or yung mga criminal law students or ibang mga students na nasa page na ito ngayon o sa channel na ito. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Working Law Student PH, and also follow me on my Facebook page, Working Law Student PH. Again, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat, and God bless us all. May our law school journey be more fulfilling, and we will just enjoy it. And sooner or later, if we will not quit, we are all become lawyers. So, yun lang mga panyero, future panyero. Maraming salamat po, and God bless. Have a nice day, everyone.